evening, sir, classmates. So we are the Group 3 and we're going to report about the Group C and I occupancies. First is the Group C occupancies, which is education and recreation. Occupancy has 10 classification and then further subdivided into 25 divisions and again divided according to their zoning classification. So according to NBCP, Rule number 7, Section 701, Occupancy Classified. Group C occupancies shall be buildings used for school or daycare purposes, involving assemblage for instruction, education, or recreation, and not classified in Group I and Group H occupancies. Group C is subdivided into two divisions, which are the divisions C-1 and C-2. C-1 is for educational structure or buildings, while C-2 is for recreational buildings. Let's proceed to its use, which is classified into three, namely the principal, accessory, and conditional. Division C-1, its principal are 1. Educational institutions such as schools, colleges, or universities. 2 is seminar or workshop facilities. 3 is training centers or facilities. 4 are libraries, museums, exhibitions halls, and art galleries. 5 is civic centers, clubhouses, lodges, community centers. 6 are churches, mosques, temples, shrines, chapels. 7 is civic or government centers and other types of government buildings. While Division C-2 are amusement halls and parlors, massage and sauna parlors, health studios and reducing salons, billiard halls, pool rooms, bowling alleys, and golf clubhouses. 5 are dancing schools, disco pads, dance and amusement halls. 6 is gymnasia, pelota courts, and sports complex. Let's move to its accessory. Division C-1 has no accessory, while Division C-2 are government centers, 2 are colleges, universities, professional business schools, vocational and trade schools, technical schools. 3 are general hospitals, medical centers, multi-purpose clinics. 4 are scientific, cultural, and academic centers and research facility, except nuclear, radioactive, chemical, and biological warfare facilities. 5 are convention centers and related facilities. 6 is religious structures such as church, seminary, and novitiates. 7 museums, embassies or consulate, and lastly, student housing such as dormitories and boarding houses. Division C-2 and C-1 have no conditional. Let's proceed to zoning classification. Occupancy differs from zoning. Occupancy is ang use ng building, while ang zoning is kung diin mo ibutang ang building or ang lugar. So Division C-2 is under general institutional. A community, the national level of institutional use or occupancy, characterized mainly as low-rise, medium-rise, or high-rise buildings or structure for educational, training, and related activities, such as schools and related facilities and the like.
Allowable maximum gross floor area TGFA lot types. A corner lot is a zoning lot that adjoins the point of intersection of two or more streets. It is also a zoning lot bounded entirely by streets. An interior lot is any zoning lot that is neither a corner lot nor a through lot. A through lot is any zoning lot that connects two generally parallel streets and is not a corner lot. Maximum allowable total gross floor area TGFA limitation. In Table 7.1, the percentages indicated in the third through 8 columns, but excluding the multiplier numbers 3, 5, 12, 18, and 30, which represent the number of stories or floors, are the percentages of the total lot area TLA that may be used to initially determine the allowable maximum TGFA for a proposed building or structure. So the value of the TGFA in a residential group with firewalls is greater than the ones without firewalls because, in its definition, the utilities like firewalls, roof decks, parking, driveways, and many more are all included, so it will also affect the percentage of the site occupancy. Next, cross-check of TGFA with allowable maximum volume building AMVB. Once the allowable maximum TGFA is completed, it must be thoroughly cross-checked with the AMVB to find out if the AMVB is not exceeded. The maximum allowable TGFA must be adjusted if the AMVB exceeded since the AMVB must always prevail.
Good evening, everyone. I am Bilode Janelin. So, to continue our report, we have here the maximum height of building, which is according sa aton NBCP, section 707. The maximum height and number of stories of a building shall be dependent upon the following. First is use or occupancy, or where is the building or structure intended to, type of construction, kung residential, institutional, commercial, and etc. We also need to consider the following: population density, light, ventilation, width of right of roadways or streets. Sa last nga part, particular na siya sa parking requirements, zoning regulations, sa environmental considerations, which are ang geological conditions nga kinahanglan mo i-consider ang soil characteristics, ang proximity sa volcano, and also ang hydrological condition niya, kung pila ang iyang distance sa waterways or shorelines, kag ang meteorological naman, kung pila ang frequency and intensity sa typhoons. Next, it is also stated in order to determine the building height, kinahanglan ko no i-measure from the grade line to the topmost portion of the proposed building. So, exclude na ang pag-measure ta above sa roof, such as ang signage, why na siya, mast, antenna, telecom tower, and the like. It is also stated na any proposed building or structure shall only be as allowed under this rule or under the duly approved city, municipal, local zoning ordinance, whichever is more restrictive. So kung gingaan ta specified heights sa NBCP ta, pero kung pagka ara naman sa local ya, may ara naman niya gingatag sa aton nga specific height pero lower na siya based sa NBCP, kinahanglan ta sundon ang local para ma-avoid ng penalties. So for the BHL, sang educational kag recreational. Kung educational sa, pwede siya mabilang sa commercial kag institutional. Kung commercial 1, ang allowed na nga floors is 3 to 5 lang. Kag ang meters above the highest grade is 10 to 15. C2 is 6, higher na siya sa C1. Then ang meters above the highest grade is 18. C3 naman, so mas dako na gid siya, dako ang discrepancy sa C1 ug C2, 16 to 60 na. Kag ang meters above the highest grade is 48 to 180. For the institutional, allowed lang ta for 15 meters or must follow the duly approved PHL in the major zone it is part of. So whichever is more restrictive, like ginamba ko. So recreational naman, 15 meters man.
We're going to continue the discussion about Group C. So we have here, for the specific uses or occupancy, Group C is divided into two divisions. And the first division is the division C-1, the second is division C-2. So we have here, for specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building or structures. For the first division, we have here bowling alleys, and for the minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements, we have here one car slot for every 4 alleys. For the second division, we have here division C-2, and then for specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building or structures, we have here churches and similar places of worship. And for its minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements, we have here one car slot and one jeepney or shuttle slot for every 50 square meters of congregation area. And the next, we have here for specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building or structures under C-2, we have here public elementary, secondary, vocational, and trade school. So its minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements. We have here one off-street come on-site parking slot for every 10 classrooms and one off-street passenger loading space that can accommodate 2 queue jeepney, or shuttle slots. Next, still under Division C-2, for the specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building structures. We have here private elementary, secondary, vocational, and trade school. For its minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements, we have one car slot for every 5 classrooms. Next one off-street passenger loading space that can accommodate 2 queued jeepney or shuttle slots. And lastly, one school bus slot for every 100 students. So next, for the specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building structures under C-2, we have here public colleges and universities. For its minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements, we have one car slot for every 5 classrooms, one off-street passenger loading space that can accommodate 2 queued jeepney shuttle slots, and one school bus slot for every 200 students. Lastly, under the Division C-2, so for the specific uses or character of occupancies or type of building or structures, we have here private colleges and universities. And for the minimum required parking slot, parking area, and loading space requirements, we have here one car slot for every 3 classrooms. Next is one off-street passenger loading space that can accommodate 2 queued jeepney or shuttle slots. And lastly, one school bus slot for every 100 students. We should take note that the parking slot of requirements shall be an important part of buildings or structures, and any parking slots provided outside the building or structure will be quantified only as buffer parking. So there are also prohibitions on parking slots. First one is change of use or occupancy of parking slot. Second, we should prohibit the reduction of parking spaces. Next is the encroachment or construction on RROW or road right of way. And lastly, it is prohibited to have a public utility and bulky vehicles on a parking slot. Thank you. That's all for the Group C, and we proceed for the Group I.
For the use of principal, we have coliseum, sports complexes, theaters, concert halls, and convention centers, which are the architectural structures that are needed mostly for assembly meetings, recreational activities, and to provide a permanent purpose built for staging and performing various forms of entertainment. For the use of accessory, we have parks and gardens to make our cities and neighborhood more attractive to live and work. And also we have resorts areas, example beaches, and including accessory uses. Open air or outdoor sports activities and support facilities, golf courses, ball courts, racetracks are for recreational purposes. Memorial, shrines, and monuments are built for the remembrance of historic times. Sports club, underground parking structures, and facilities. For the zoning classification, we have CUL or the cultural, a community to national level of cultural use or occupancy characterized mainly as low-rise or medium-rise building, structure for cultural activities. For the low-rise, it is defined as buildings with 4 floors or under or having few floors or stories. For the mid-rise building, are defined as buildings that have between 5 to 12 floors. Next, we have ERE, which are park structures, recreation, and entertainment. If you are planning to build or in planning to build structures, we must know the limits or the limitations in the space that are required to a building. Each of the structures are having minimum and maximum persons to occupy the spaces.
So now we are here in allowable maximum gross floor area or TGFA lot types. The first one is a corner lot. So a corner lot is a zoning lot that adjoins the point of intersection of two or more streets. It is also a zoning lot bounded entirely by streets. So makita mo di sa aton nga image, makita mo ang corner lot sa corner sang street. Ang adjacent sang corner lot is ano gid dapat ng dalan. So next is an interior lot is any zoning lot that is neither a corner lot nor a through lot. So, sa nakita nyo man di sa aton nga image, bali daw sa likod na nasa isang corner lot or in between sang through lot. So next is a through lot is any zoning that lot that connects two generally parallel streets and is not a corner lot. So ang through lot doging sugpon lang sang duha ka corner lot nga hindi sa mo consider nga ara gid sa may kanto sang dalan. So next, maximum allowable total gross floor area. So TGFA limitation in table 7.1, the percentage indicated in the third through 8 columns but excluding the multiplier number 3, 5, 12, 18, and 30, which represent the number of stories or floors, are the percentage PF the total lot area or TLA that may be used to initially determine the allowable maximum TGFA for a purpose building or structure. So, ang total gross floor area is amunin sa ang balido summation of floor area nyo including the basement and other stories pa kung pila ka bilog ang inyong building. Then, cross-check of TGFA with allowable maximum volume building or AMVB. Once the allowable maximum TGFA is completed, it must be thoroughly cross-checked with the AMVB to find out if the AMVB is not exceeded. The maximum allowable TGFA must be adjusted if the AMVB exceeded since the AMVB must always prevail. So, bali, ang aton nga total gross floor area is dependent on allowable maximum volume building or AMVB. So, dapat ang AMVB ta always gid ma-prevail. So, ang TGFA gid ma-adjust. Next. So, these are the diagram of allowable maximum total gross floor area.
All buildings and structures shall conform in all aspects to ensure the safety of occupants or user before the construction. One of the concerns of the general building requirement is the maximum height of the building. The height and the number of stories of a proposed building shall be dependent upon the occupancy and type of construction. In the determination of the building height, factors such as hydrological and meteorological conditions, soil characteristics, lot location, and building safety and maintenance systems must be addressed first. For the cultural area, the height of the establishment being allotted is 30 meters high, already good for the Coliseum, sport complex, theaters, concert halls, and convention centers, and for the park and other open recreational and entertainment spaces, 15 meters height of the establishment is allowed and permitted. These considerations of the height of building within the area limited by an imaginary line and the height clearance permit from Air Transportation Office should be followed also. In determining the maximal height of a proposed structure, the approval of the city and local zoning ordinance and duly approved BHL must be followed.
So for the minimum required off-street, common site parking slot, parking area, and loading and unloading space requirements by allowed use or occupancy. With this division, the reference uses or character of occupancies or type of building structure. It is Recreational or similar public assembly buildings, such as stadia, sports complexes, convention centers, and etc. The minimum required parking slot, parking area, and the loading space requirements are one car slot and one jeepney shuttle slot for every 50 square meters of spectator area, and one bus parking slot for every 200 spectators. Phew.